You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty.
Some dude just rolls up, jumps out of his truck, and runs straight at the deer.
He's about to get his butt whooped. I mean,
You know, I went through my mind, I'm like, too late.
you did. You did.
Kind of bending over like an old man. And you're like, dude, my back is shot. I can't take this. I can't take this. And he just rolls over, stands up, and he goes, I'm like, what the hell was that? All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call. And today we're in a Airbnb in the middle, well, not far from Salt Lake City in the Salt Palace, because it is Western Hunt Expo week, and we're hanging out at a big Airbnb house with a pile full of folks from the show. And one of those people is on the podcast today. He's our guest. That is Hunter Mcwaters.
What's up, guys?
And then we got Brad Hunt here, and Brad Hunt, Hunter, and myself, that was weird. Brad Hunt and Hunter were on this recent hunt in Arizona where we're going after archery mule deer, archery coos deer. Mm-hmm. What I want to do today on the podcast, because we didn't really get a chance to really reflect on the trip because you had to take off.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is, you know, we've done this hunt.
Yeah, right.
And we've also spent a lot of years doing similar hunts.
Right.
I'm curious, you know, from fresh eyes.
Yeah.
From a guy this is all new. And then also hunting with us, like what you picked up, what were the things that sort of stood out to you?
Yeah.
You know, I want to go over, because often I think we take for granted what we think or what we know. We don't even think about talking about it. Right. You brought some stuff up like, why this or why that? And I'm like, oh, well, this is why. And this is why I think your content is so valuable. If you go back through some of my old stuff, it was like this, because I'm telling you, I'm on the same journey. You're on the same journey I was on years ago.
Yeah. And
back then I would ask questions because I didn't take anything for granted. I really didn't know. It was a clean slate. Mm-hmm. And that's where your perspective is so cool, because you come to the table doing podcasts.
Yeah.
You've started one called Hunter's Quest, and you're filmmaking.
Yeah.
And you just showed me a film you filmed for Dan Staten at Elk Shape this last year.
Yeah.
And you also produced a Kodiak film that I've been watching a little bit, and I think we're going to release to the public here soon on the Gritty channel. I was just taken by it, and I think it's cool, and I think it'd be great to get your name out there and share it.
Stoked, yeah.
And I'm impressed, folks.
Thanks,
I'm impressed with Hunter's work and his ability to do the whole package.
I appreciate it.
Plus, the whole family really liked you because you got introduced to the wife and the kids and the mom and the dad and the sisters.
It was cool being in camp with you guys, and your dad's cool, and I liked it.
So that's what today is going to be about. So before we get started, I do want to ask you, if you love the show, like, comment, subscribe, all the things, and also use the code GRITTY over at Peaks. We're over here at the booth right now at the Western Hunt Expo. We got
just
the
snagged
new
a pair of gators.
Did you?
Yeah, and the headlamp too, actually.
We got gators.
The headlamps are going
they got
quick.
Headlamps. The headlamp is selling out quick. It's the new duo.
Backcountry duo.
Backcountry duo. I mean, Lampers and I went through a lot of iterations with that, with Bryce testing and complaining and getting it updated. And it's been a year or so in the making, and here it is. And I think it satisfies our needs more than your typical REI lamp that's out there.
And the big thing too is with Ryan Lampers, it's behind the scenes. Like, you don't see it, but that guy is a gear.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what you want to call it, but he's a stickler when it comes to gear. Like, he wants something that works well, and which we all do. Yeah. We obviously all do. But he puts it through the ringer for sure.
He tries everything under the sun.
He wants to break it. He wants to break it and hate it.
Yeah.
Well, I have like a Black Diamond one, and like I don't know how to lock that thing, and that actually almost screwed me in Arizona. Because I got there and I was like, no. But the Peaks one's like super easy. You just like hold it down.
Rechargeable. Lots of things. We'll talk about that on another show, but use the code GRITTY over there, and you're going to get a discount, and it helps us.
Yep. And
the trekking poles, as always, the sissy sticks, they're out there. Everybody needs a pair of those for that mountain hunts, for sure. Especially if you're backpacking and packing out heavy loads. So check that out and use the code GRITTY at Mountain Ops and then Stealthy Nutrition. Get a Stealthy rifle cover or glassing pad if you haven't got one yet over at Stealthy Nutrition. Use the code GRITTY. Okay, Hunter.
Yes.
Hunter Mcwaters.
That's me.
Is that Scottish? Irish?
Scotch-Irish, yeah.
Scotch-Irish.
Yeah, so my people got kicked out of Ireland, and then we got kicked out of Scotland. So
Here, it's funny, my experience with ginger folk is
He's about to get his butt whipped.
I mean,
Dwayne too.
Yeah.
All my freaking friends are ginger dudes. No, it's interesting because they do have passionate souls and they have tempers and they're fiery. Well, it's like just got to be.
We're all in, man.
Yeah.
We're either 100% or none.
I love it. All right, let's talk about this hunt. So you've never hunted in Arizona before.
No.
What was your impression day one?
Day one, it's totally a cliche, but everything really does stick you and prick you. Like I was wearing like a black O's like merino top, and like I remember just walking through stuff, and like there'd be these little like cylindrical little things they're still on my shirt. I don't know how to get those off.
Over years past, we haven't had those.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because
more vegetation.
Yeah, because I think in the past years that vegetation is not that tall and it hasn't matured that much.
Yeah, you get a little bit, but this was intense.
It was intense, like
next level.
because I've never really had it sticking to my pants that much.
Right.
And this year they look like a little
straw,
exactly, and there's like Velcro. They're like a straw Velcro.
And you try to pull it off and it just breaks apart.
It breaks apart.
Just disintegrates and sticks to you.
Yeah.
I still have them on there.
Yeah. I think it's permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah, my socks, it's just permanent Arizona.
Yeah.
It's with me all the time.
And you always start, like I had one on my knee. It was like a week and a half, 2 weeks right after we got back. And I had a little sore spot on my knee, and gosh dang it, you push it out and there comes a thorn. It's a 1/4 inch long.
Yeah.
It's just been sitting in there.
So we were complaining to you. We were like, man, it's been slow. We're sorry about this, Hunter.
Yeah.
That's true. You guys were like, oh, this is really slow, but we saw like a bunch of deer the first day. And I was like, well, if this is slow, like that's not bad, because to me, slow is you don't see anything. That's slow.
Right.
Like, so if I'm...
We saw like, I don't know, 30 deer or something.
Yeah.
And you're like...
a few bucks. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we're smaller bucks, but we're still seeing tons of deer.
Right. And then you guys saw some small bucks. And, I'm hunting southeastern whitetails mainly. And like, I was like, dang, those are nice. What are you talking about?
Right.
So that was cool. And then we did spot like I thought it was like a really nice buck. He was like, yeah, it's pretty good. He was pretty good.
And he was you're talking about the 5x6.
Yeah.
He's a great buck. Like, I was looking at him close. He was definitely a mature buck.
Yeah.
But he was one of those bucks. He was 20, maybe 20,
Wasn't very wide.
22 inches wide, somewhere in there. But he's got these big back forks, like these inlines on both sides.
Nice buck.
Great buck, especially archery buck. Yeah. Like,
and you could tell he was a little smarter than the other ones, because the other ones, the vehicles didn't bother him at all.
Yeah.
But this one, we were watching, he was with a doe. And I don't know what, there was a vehicle way off in the distance, and just that noise, he was like, nah, I'm good. And just like went over the other side.
Yeah. Just fades away.
Yeah.
When he starts to feel, he senses the pressure.
Yeah.
Yep.
He doesn't wait till someone's coming after him. He ducks out of there as the sun came up.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was cool, man. Saw some javelina for the first time. And
so, contrast your coos to muley experience.
Yeah, so I mean, the mule deer, obviously you always hear like the mule deer kind of in the more flat areas, and the coos are up higher. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you guys helped me out to getting almost to shoot a small mule deer like towards the end. But it's no joke, dude. Those coos deer, like, you hear like, oh, they're so tough to hunt or whatever. It's for real. I mean, like, I went with Brad on that one stalk.
And that's what I was going to ask you, is like, what was your first impression?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious.
On that first stalk
So let me set the context here.
Yeah.
We spotted beautiful, heavy, super tall eye
guard. He's a giant coos deer. Like, he's a stud, Good. I mean, that buck's over 100 inches.
Yeah. Beautiful buck.
Yeah.
And
we were able to find lots of coos deer that we pretty much had to ourselves, too, which was cool.
Yeah, contrast to
the mule deer.
If you compare it to the mule deer experience.
Yeah, I think we saw that, like, one decent buck I think it was like the first day, and you were going to give me a crack at him. And me and Brad jumped out to literally, and some dude just rolls up, jumps out of his truck, and runs straight at the deer and just like busts him.
Yeah, pissed us off.
Like, I was like, cool, thanks, man.
Yeah,
I literally took one step
no
in.
class. Yeah. But you know what? I did a podcast, that R2 podcast the other day. And, you got people out there that are like, hey, it's public land, first to the deer. That's what it is. Whether a guy's already on the stock or not, like, everybody goes in, goes all in. I don't agree with that.
Right.
I think that you should respect another person. You got to share the place.
Take my side of the story, guys.
It's kind of like
you got to have some etiquette, or else it's just like chaos.
Some. Yeah. But if someone does come and pee in your Cheerios, you can pee in theirs too.
Right.
Right. Anyway, so let's go back to this buck. We spot him. He's beautiful, and we have him all to ourselves pretty much. And that's how it is with Coues deer in general. Like we never really have to compete with other people.
Yeah.
So, and you can find them, right? So here we are on this buck. We see him bed. He's in a pretty killable spot.
Yeah.
And Hunter is going to film over the shoulder, and Brad, you're going to move in. Yeah. I've got eyes and I've got ways of directing you guys, and we're going in.
Yeah.
And Hunter.
Yeah.
Was it what you expected? What was it?
So first of all, definitely like way more of a team effort than I thought. I mean, it takes a team to kill these things. And like, to be honest, like my limited experience with stalking, I mean, it's maybe an hour, like for a long one or something.
Yeah.
So you guys are like, we're going to go on a stalk. I'm like, okay, like we're going to go in and, go in and try to get it. No, this is like a day long ordeal. Like I didn't know like that a stalk is like an entire day.
Yeah.
So that was different. So, I had my pack. We dropped our packs like pretty good. I mean, we were away from our packs for what, 3-4 hours?
Yeah, probably.
So I wasn't completely prepared for that. I didn't have stuff on me. I didn't have so, and I'm not complaining. It was cool, but I definitely got hungry. I got thirsty. I got cold, and I was like, "Dang, dude, this is like."
I guess we didn't. It was kind of baptism by fire.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, we just kind of assumed
we're used to that. Like we know. I'm okay with not eating all day. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
Not drinking. Like you saw me right as we dropped our packs. I heard you took a big drink of water because and I should have probably told you. I planned on we were going to be a while.
Till dark.
Like
or you get an arrow.
10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And so you got 7 hours or so left of daylight
for sure. And I had some time to think about something I went into on a podcast I did, kind of recapping the trip. About being uncomfortable and whatnot. So I don't know if you want to go into that, but it was definitely more of what I thought I was going in for a stalk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was more like a hunt.
Yeah,
like a day-long
hunt.
Like
a day-long. But you could see how you have to move speed
just
or
so methodically, and slow and be careful. Especially you really have to be careful about dragging your pants or you're dragging your foot as you're trying to as we're crab crawling down. Like that's why I kept telling you, hey, keep your feet stretched out in front of you as we're kind of crab crawling, because if you get your feet underneath of you on that steep hill, as you're trying to get them out, one, you're lifting your body above too high. And then the other thing is you're scraping your foot, even though your foot, you may be wearing something soft like a stoccasin or anything.
So it's still loud in the desert.
It's still going to be loud. You're going to be pushing rocks or whatever. So, I mean, those are just like little tiny things that make a huge difference.
That was something I picked up too, was like I called you like the desert ninja, because you had like stockasins with socks over them and then socks up to here, like tucked in. And you got to, man. And you got to move like that. I remember watching a couple guys through glass, like, stalking in on mule deer and stuff. And it was just kind of like, they'd be sort of hunched over, but just walking pretty much normal speed.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it later. It's like, it's almost like they would rather bust the deer out than actually have to put in the effort to what it really requires to like move that slow.
Yep.
It's hard. You have to be really patient.
It's just as Lamper says, like, you tell Lampers you're going on, you went on a stalk, and he'll be like, "Are you sore?
Yeah.
Do you hurt?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, not really." Well, you didn't do it right. Obviously,
right.
there's, and it's true. Those stalks, they are, especially if you're not doing it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, they are grueling on your body.
Yeah. That was the other thing. Remember how I was like, here, Hunter, let's practice this like kind of full draw moment, in the situation. And I was like, get lower. Yeah. Like get lower.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of bending over like an old man. And you're like, dude, my back is shot.
Yeah.
And I've been there.
You got to have like good mobility, man.
Flexibility.
I've been there in years where you're hunched over and pretty soon your back is just on fire. And we've just been doing it for so much. Like I feel really conditioned for this kind of stuff because months and months doing it in the field.
I did hit that one-legged squat though.
Nice.
Remember?
Yes, you did. That's right. We were sitting there. I'm like, one-legged squats, I asked him if he did any because I think they're really useful for stalking. Like if you can do one-legged squat after the other pistols, they really are kind of condition you for this type of spot and stalk.
Right. Because you were showing me to like put your foot down and don't even put any weight on it and like slowly transfer weight onto it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like if you stand there and your weight is on your right leg and you put your left leg forward and you just slowly let it touch pressure down on the grass until it's firm. I don't shift my body weight to it until after I've pressed it lightly with my foot. So then I shift my weight. And that way you don't break the branch, snap the twig, make the noise.
And another thing you were telling me too, that just came to my head was like, I was thinking, okay, I want to put my step down at the same time as him because then it's like one person moving instead of two people moving. Yeah. But you were saying, no, do it when I'm not doing it so it doesn't compound the noise and make it more.
So one thing I've always done it even before I started learning filming and stuff like that, just hunting with my dad.
Yeah.
Because I learned a lot from my dad was, when you got two guys you're stalking in, the back guy, and I think you may have heard me say it when we were first going around, I was like, just stick on my back pocket.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you basically what I do is almost, I think about it like a horse or even a deer, whatever walking, a four-legged animal, is they're moving that other, their back leg, or say the right leg forward. I'm just barely starting to move my right leg forward. We're kind of still stepping in the same place, but I'm still far enough away that I'm not going to step on him, or if he all of a sudden stops, I'm not going to bump into him.
Right.
But at the same time, I still have all my weight on my other leg, and as he's transferring that right leg forward, I'm doing the same, but we're still got all of our weight on an opposite leg, and we can just stay together, like, spot and stalk.
Yeah, Brad's pretty good at that, like really good, where Hunter's got less experience. Moving, I move 3 feet, then he moves 3 feet, I move 3 feet, because when we both, in the desert where it was really quiet and there was no sound, no wind, 1 foot on the rock going, it's unavoidable. Because you're moving, and I got socks on and stockisons, and I'm really slow and then shifting. Well, if Hunter does it at the same time, it's so much more noisy, because it's so quiet. So moving one person moving just and then waiting for the next guy to move, it's painstaking. But there's a definite increase in noise when you both step at the same time. It's too noisy. It's just
I didn't think about that. I thought it was better to be like, as opposed to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, what I always do is like, as Brian's moving, I also watch, like, especially when we're in the stockisons, I also watch where he steps. It could be like if he steps on a sticker, like a cactus or something, he's always going to go like, ow, that didn't feel right. But at the same time, if I'm watching where he's stepping, as well as paying attention to the surroundings and stuff. But if I'm watching where he steps,
I've already crushed.
I want to step in that same spot because the grass, he's already broke it. It's going to be more quiet for me to step in that exact same spot.
Absolutely. And far more quiet stepping in my tracks. It's a thing.
It's a whole art, which I, in my hunting experience, hadn't learned. The
other thing is patience. Like when it comes to, like I mentioned before, like when you're moving in on that, back when you were talking about hunters, that you were saying, they'd rather just blow it out than take the time it takes to do it. Right. Nothing bothers me more. Think of it this way. There's like a set speed that you can go toward this buck and get in bow range on this deer. Any degree of speed faster than that will make it run away. You will get caught. It's a fact. It's like a law of nature.
And a mule deer speed to a coos deer speed
totally different.
Is totally different. I mean, you are slowing way down on a coos.
And so on the coos thing, when you are moving that slow, I don't think guys realize how slow that needs to be. Mm-hmm. But I look at that and it's like, okay, I need to close 200 yards to be in bow range. I got 3 hours. Okay, it's going to be tight, but I could probably do it. So you don't arrive to that 200-yard mark for 3 hours.
Right.
That's in my head long before I even do the stalk.
And then
I'll look at that in the evening. It's like, well, to get there, it's a 3-hour stalk, and I have 1 hour before dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, there's no point. You can't just. I did, and this is true with coos deer. You can kind of get away with it sometimes with mule deer, but there's really no point in rushing it because it's kind of an exercise in futility.
Yeah. Right.
Why not just be patient? You didn't have enough time to do it properly. Watch them, see where they go, get on them tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's situational, different situations. Obviously, if you've got a lot of cover or a rise,
wind,
exactly. Wind. If you've got wind,
rut behavior,
exactly. It's all situational.
Yeah, you could get within, 200 yards in that window, and all of a sudden they come to you.
I mean, it was when I got. I was 45 yards initially on the one buck that when we couldn't pick up that really windy day, we couldn't pick up the big buck we were on.
Yep.
And that other buck, I was able to close a lot of distance pretty fast. Mm-hmm. I was able to close actually into 50 yards.
Yeah, you were.
Within less than an hour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I also had a lot of they were on the other
terrain.
side of the ridge, the terrain, tons of wind.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm just saying when you calculate how long it takes you to get there realistically, mm-hmm. and then you kind of move accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that'll set you up for more success because you're just going into it with an expectation that's realistic, and it slows you down.
And the other big thing I picked up from you guys was like, you say like counting coup. I call it like a King David stalk.
Yeah. Solomon and David.
Right. Like could have killed you, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But getting in there, like in my mind is like, okay, the goal is to stalk in and get a shot. But that's not always necessarily the goal. Sometimes the goal is just to get in range undetected and wait for the animal to make that last move.
Yep.
Which, if you got the time to do it is, I guess, ideal. But
we've really been accustomed to that, it's like we've done it on elk a ton, mm-hmm. and it's a successful stalk, and we talk about it all the time. It's a successful stalk if you can get in close and is also back out.
And count it as a victory. Count it as a victory. If you get so close that you almost killed him, but you were able to get out of there without being detected, dude, it's close. I mean, that's a victory for the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you can find them again tomorrow.
And we're talking under 100 yards.
Yeah, last year I was on that buck that I killed in Arizona. Mm-hmm. I was right next to him. I mean, I had him at 79 yards.
Right.
Then the day before, in the evening, the sun was going down, and I ranged, I dialed, I drew, and I was like, 79 yards. I was really tempted to take that shot, but I'm like, that is not necessarily a shot I know for sure. Yeah. Like, I just can't miss this shot. It's not one of those shots.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want a more sure shot. I could shoot this shot. I don't feel like it's a great shot.
Yeah.
Gut was telling me, they leave, they blow out. I still had the following morning and afternoon.
Yeah.
That was my last day. So this is my second to last day. He's in bow range. Yeah. And I'm like,
that's tough.
You know what? I don't want to take a shot where it's 50-50 or maybe 70-30. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was, but I'm like, you know what? I would rather take my chances tomorrow and get that 99% shot. And maybe I don't, but I've been putting a lot of days in, and one of these days, I mean, the odds are coming in my favor. I backed out, didn't shoot, didn't take that opportunity. Came back next day, he's right where we left him. I got in close. This time he came and he walked right to me. I anticipated where he was going to be. Mm-hmm. I set up there. Sure enough, he came right to me and I shot him. And I only do that because of a few days of watching where he went. We were figuring out this buck. After you left, we figured out what we should have done to kill that big deer.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
we should have sat that mountain saddle and we would have killed him 2 or 3 times.
Right.
That he dipped over across. You're talking about the mule deer?
No,
the Coos deer on that mountain.
Like,
remember
the Okatia Mountain?
You know where we swung around the backside?
Yeah.
And then we came through the first saddle, and then we swung down below the rocks to the next saddle.
Yeah.
The upper saddle. So
wind blows uphill. You're on the uphill side of that saddle. They went in and out, and across the bottom.
Because there was some right there when we were up there, like 5 yards from us. We said that we didn't.
The buck was there the day I got on him at 40 yards. He walked right below the saddle within bow range.
Yep.
And then he walked back. Remember, after I blew him on the second stalk, where'd they go? Right to that saddle.
I think I almost think that it was him and that doe that were coming, or I think it might have been that doe that I got into 17 yards and we had no idea I had no idea that she was there. Like, she was bedded and she was tucked away. And I got 17 yards and I'm sitting there, and the wind's blowing up. I'm keeping the wind blowing up, and I realized that when she popped
on the last day, Brad did his stalk, and he got to 17 yards of where the buck and doe were.
Yep.
And a doe jumped up and bolted, and he couldn't see what was below it. I think the buck was right there. I think he got too close.
Yeah. But I mean, we scoured that mountainside. Like, she was just tucked in there when you couldn't see her.
Yeah.
We had no idea she was
too
there.
Tall. I'm like, Brad, you're there.
Right.
And just what it is, but you need the ball to bounce your way a little bit.
We just needed a little luck this
year. But
year.
being patient, and waiting for that animal, like not blowing, like counting coup, like you said, King
David stalk
on Saul.
Yeah.
The Saul in the cave.
When he came up and cut a corner off his robe while he was going to the bathroom. And then he showed it to him. Was like, see?
See?
I could have got you.
I could have killed you, and I didn't, so quit trying to hunt me down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was, just like you get in there and you get out. That's a victory. Count it, and then live to fight another day. Yeah. I always tell myself, if I don't blow this, you never know what might happen next. I feel like too many guys blow this. Like, they blow it up because they're like, it's now or never. I got to make it happen. Yeah. So let's say you're in super tight on this buck, right? And he's bedded behind a rock.
Yeah.
And you're 40 yards from him, right? And you're like, oh man, I just need him to do this, or I just need him to do that. And so you're like, you know what? I'm gonna throw a rock.
Yeah.
It's like, just sit there.
Right.
Wait.
It's almost like subconsciously, it's such a stressful situation.
You want to end
subconsciously, it. You just want it to be done.
To the head.
Yeah. It's like, at least if I blow him out, I can go back to camp and eat.
But you got to tell yourself, and then let's say it gets up and his butt's facing you and you're at full draw. And he keeps walking away from you and walking away from you, and he's walking away from you and he's walking away from you. And he's going to go over the ridge. And you're like, oh, come on, turn. And it doesn't look like he's going to turn. A lot of guys will be like, hey. And they'll do something desperate. Yeah. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
That Coosier's going to go. Now, if you don't say anything, so what? He goes over. You're still in the game.
Yeah.
And an hour later, he might come trotting back with the doe and stand at 20 yards. Or you might creep over and he's right there with this perfect scenario. Yeah. But you're always in the game if you don't blow it.
Scare him out.
Years ago, I was doing all this paintball stuff. This was years ago. And I was playing paintball every weekend with a bunch of buddies. We'd go and compete at this place. And it was just fun to just shoot people and have these, like, we do like capture the flag. My brother-in-law comes. He's never done this before. We get out there and we're competing with this other team. They're pretty good. They kind of wipe out the whole team. There's just a couple of us left. My brother-in-law is one of them. We get pinned down. We're behind this tree and we're just pinned down. Like they're lobbing bullets at it, like paintballs at us. And we're laying there and I'm like, and I got a radio to two buddies that are on the hill. They're coming. The cavalry is coming. They're going to flank them on that side and then we'll be able to get out of there. And my brother-in-law, Jeff, he's like, come on, dude, come on. He's like, I can't take it. I'm like, shut up, calm down, dude, calm down. And I'm rolling over, shooting him, and I'm laying. I'm just trying to keep him from like coming too fast. Yeah. There's an open space between us. He's like, I can't do this, man. I can't do this. I'm like, yeah, you can. Breathe, dude. It's not a big deal. He's like, I can't take this. And he just rolls over, stands up, and he goes, ah, and he just runs at the guys, and they just throw him down. I'm like, what the hell was that? And it was that pressure. Like he just wanted it to end. Yeah. He just wanted out. He just couldn't take the heat. You know, it's like, and I think you do that. That's target panic too. That's the situation where guys, you know, rather than stay calm, they it's now or never. They tell themselves, I'm not going to get another opportunity. Sure. Make it happen. And it's like, no. As long as you don't do anything dumb, you're still in this game. For sure. Let it play out and wait for that moment that's high percentage. Yeah. There's no sense in wasting it on a low percentage. So tell folks about your first muley stalk.
Yeah, so
bow in hand.
Yeah, so it was my last day. These guys knew it was my last day. They knew I was totally fine with killing a small one. And first of all, I just want to say thanks to you guys for, I told you already, but for giving up. I mean, because like I said, it's a team effort. Yeah. So these guys gave up their whole day of hunting to try to get me one. So that was cool. And so Brad sees them. We were all three split up. Then me and Brian go over to Brad. We were able to get on a ridge kind of next to where Brad was. Got eyes on him. Marked him. Then Brad came over to us. Marked him. And then you and me went around the other way.
And the reason for that was to never take eyes off of him.
Right. Exactly. So we didn't lose him. And we got there right as he was bedding down. Yep. So it was like perfect.
Had we left and just said, hey, and wait, and he had got, like, that'd be dumb. Like, just wait. Always have eyes on the target. You never know, because he could go 20 yards and disappear on you, and now you're stuck.
And Brad lost them right as we got him.
Yeah.
And then, we were holding his place, and then Brad came, and then we snuck around. So, and then, we got around there, and I was getting my bow ready, and you were kind of getting the camera ready, and I just had a moment. I had to admit, I was like, dude, this is freaking cool. Like, I'm getting my bow ready, and like Brian Call's about to film me hunt. Like, what is going on? So anyway, had that little moment. But then I was like, all right, this is cool. So we start going in, and it was. I mean, it's not I've been hunting since I was 8 years old, but not this type of hunting. So it was, it's a skill that no one's ever taught me before.
Yeah.
It's something you guys probably, like you said, you've been doing it. Like I've been, bird hunting.
We take for granted so much of that stuff because we've been doing it forever.
That's how you grew up hunting.
Yeah.
It's not how I grew up hunting. So it's totally cool, and that's been part of my whole story of just like rebirth, but and hunting. But anyway, so I'm going in with you, and just moving incredibly slow, and like having you explain to me about putting the foot down and then slowly shifting weight. And this is when you also explained, like, because in my mind I was like, if I step at the exact same time, that sounds like less people walking. But really, what you're saying, it compounds the sound if you kind of both step at the same time. So figured all that out, and then had some miscommunication. It gets so hard to keep track of what's going on there. But anyway, I don't even remember what happened, but somehow he ended up seeing us.
Yeah.
And he was just like staring at us. And then we were kind of frozen. And you had a cool idea, which I would have never thought about. You were like, let's just like walk away, like casually, like, like swinging your arms, like we're not even, like not displaying any predatory behavior whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that worked.
I could tell from his body behavior, because he hadn't run yet.
Yeah.
He was just kind of like keen, and he was looking at us.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just act different. And I was like, that's a buck that he's rutting. He's into his doe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's thinking about the chick that's laying.
The chick
over
is
there
behind him, and he's just preoccupied, but he sees something that's weird.
Yeah.
All we need to do is give him an excuse to think it's okay, because he wants to think it's okay.
And being a younger buck, there's a lot. Most times, like I'd say 99 out of 100, you're not getting away with that with a
And I'm like,
buck.
All right, let's just start talking and walking and blah blah blah, like the contractors down the road and the other dudes working the border patrol. I'm like, let's just do it.
Yeah. So in that situation, it worked, and once we kind of dipped down under his field of view, then we kind of like, all right, and we snuck back around. You managed to range a little knob that was like directly opposite from him that was just about 50 yards. And you're like, I bet if we like get up there, like he might still be standing right there. And I was like, no way.
Right.
And we got up there, and he was just like just staring over there.
So cool.
Yeah. And I was like, and then,
you were like, holy shit.
I couldn't believe it, dude. And there was this bush. You were kind of behind this bush. And I didn't really know it, but we were like skyline behind this bush. And I was taking for granted how much cover this bush had. I thought it was giving us way more cover than it actually was. But anyway, you ranged it, and you're like, it's 60. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I've been practicing to like 70, and you were like, come here, and like the amount of stalking I've done has like the majority of it's been with a camera, not with a weapon at this point. So, and usually, when you're following somebody with a camera, you want to be very responsive. So if they say, come here, you want to like do it now.
Yeah.
And I've had to learn to kind of slow down a little bit, but I was excited. Anyway, I thought I had more cover than I did. You said come. In your mind, you meant like come very slowly. And like, but in my mind, it's like, he wants me there now. So I just kind of took a step and the deer saw me and was like, gone. But I was like, But it turned out to be a really cool learning moment because you were totally cool about it. And you actually sat there and like, I don't know, you probably spent like 15, 20 minutes like showing me what I should have done, how to do it better next time. We actually practiced a bunch of times, like crawling up super slow, like drawing, and I probably learned more out of blowing it than I would have if I had killed a deer. Probably.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it was so cool because when we got up there, and I took stuff for granted, because as I got up behind there, I stayed really close to the hill and just right at the edge of the bush, knowing that if he didn't see a standing person, but he only saw my head and shoulders, they don't run away, especially mule deer,
elk.
If you're below the grass line,
right?
If you look like a javelina or a coyote, they stand and they stare, or maybe even another coos deer or something.
Right.
They're too curious, especially mule deer. They're just curious is what kills them. So when he was standing there, I was like, okay, he's just going to stand there. And as long as we move slow and stay low, he's just going to stand there. He's not going to run away. And so I ranged, I want to make sure your pin was set and you were ready. And I turned to face you, turned away from the deer, and I turned and I was like, okay, Hunter. And I was going to say, this is what we're going to do. And Hunter just stood up and drew his bow. I was like, and I didn't even have his chance to see the deer, but I was like, oh, it's gone.
A little surprised.
I was a little shocked. And the deer ran off. But that was a good, that you're right, because I remember years ago, I don't know if you were there, Brad, but when Cousin Ben used one of those bushes,
I think I left. I'd already left when that.
You can't. Those trees are see-through.
Yeah,
and it's like they're in a cage, looking out the cage,
and we were skyline behind it,
and they can see everything from inside the cage.
Yeah.
So when what I was going to have him do was inch up, like on his chest.
Right.
Have the bow on the ground so the deer couldn't even really see him below the row of the hill. Get as close as he could up above so he could clear that brush. And then while he's on his knees or pretty much on his knees and chest down on the slope of the hill, I was going to have him draw his bow and then just slowly sit up like this.
Dead deer.
Yeah.
And what happened was he just ran up behind it. And the standing thing is really what did it.
Yeah.
Had Hunter been low like that and his head came up, he'd have just been like mesmerized, hypnotized.
That coyote or something.
And then what we would have probably ended up doing was kind of waiting for him to get a little nervous, a little twitchy,
and then
he'll kind of start to turn and look at you, and then you let it rip. And it was real predictable what he was going to do. But the jig was up though. I mean, he knew we left, but he could hear us coming back.
Yeah. We were moving pretty fast.
He knew we were coming back after we left. There's no way he couldn't hear us. We weren't being too quiet.
Right. Yeah,
and I knew he was going to be looking right at us. And I'm like, as long as all he sees is just these little rolls of the hill, these little low creatures.
Yeah.
And earlier I was talking about the same thing. When we came over the top of the hill on those two earlier, because they spooked once before, they were bedded. They saw us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what they saw was two guys on their belly, like laying in the grass.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't like it. The doe didn't like it. And they relocated.
When we first saw them?
Yeah, they relocated like 150 yards from where they were before. If we had been standing up and we walked over skyline, they'd have been gone.
Yeah.
That's why, being below the grass line, even though animals see you, especially mule deer, even though they see you, they only go a little bit, or they stay, or they kind of wander around, but they don't freak out.
Right.
Coos, you're screwed.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's like when we were on the really windy day when I put the stock on that buck. It's like when we topped over, I mean, you're barely showing your head, like just enough to glass over into that. You know, you're not coming up then getting on your knees or whatever. I mean, you got to be.
When you hunt the desert, you really, really start to learn about light, shadows, and skylines.
Yeah. And we, like a couple of freaking rookies this year, we did it. You know, we got in situations, and those coos deer, they have such a small territory. I think they know exactly what is in that terrain, and if something doesn't look right.
My mistake was I hunted mostly mule deer last year and hid in the grass a lot. These coos deer didn't care. Yeah. You're hiding in the grass. I see you. Like that's not going to work on me. Yeah.
Any bit of shine, like the sunshine.
I think my bow needed some major touching up to be. I think it's too reflective. Like everything.
Yeah, we were talking about that doe when I did the stalk with him. Might have seen even the black of my lens because I was
sure
filming
it was.
her.
Oh yeah. That's the other thing is when you were filming, you didn't use a hood.
Yeah.
And I said to you, "Where's your hoods?" And you're like, "Well, I don't really use them."
And that's why we never will use a variable filter.
Yeah. I use a fixed ND filter, 3-stop or 6-stop. Use the ISO to compensate.
Yep.
Aperture if necessary, and I just unscrew it and screw it. You know, because it usually works for the first 2 hours of the day, and then it's the next 6 hours of the day, and then the last 2 hours of the day. I'll change that fixed filter, but that gets me my camera settings just right. But that when I was watching you through the scope,
you could see the reflection.
It's like your black camera lens with the front on it, just like shine like a diamond. And those deer, I think they're just highly, highly keen to that. Tuned into it.
Because the whitetail where I'm from, I mean, they're pretty keyed up too. But I don't think a still lens would mess with them.
Yeah, and I think it's I think where especially the lighting is so harsh in the desert, so intense
for sure
that it's even they just have a knack.
And I think what you said about they know their territory. Like, they know, like, that wasn't there last time I looked up there.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Yep. And the other thing is, like, when we went on that stalk, we've talked about it, is, I tried to stay super low. I mean, low and slow, and you're below that grass line. Yeah. And then
I have all this video.
On a little video, it's like, I'm creeping, and you're creeping as well, but you're creeping while
like
you're
a foot and a half
up
higher.
A little higher, and it's like... It's just those.
But you could tell, like, your back was like, done.
And I have a stiff lower back. I need to work on that.
Yeah. So if you now having come back from that experience, what are some things that you kind of goals that you want to work on, or what kind of
definitely, like, it sounds kind of weird maybe, but definitely like flexibility and mobility is a big one because I train pretty hard. Physically, I'm in pretty good shape, but when we were doing and you were helping me practice, it was hard to get into some of those positions because I do have like a tight lower back. So doing more stretching, honestly, I was
impressed with the mobility on the one-legged squat. That was pretty darn good, and you had the strength and the stability to do it.
Yeah.
So that wasn't so bad.
I just had a
deep squat was. With both.
My hips and lower back where they connect, there's like a tight spot. It's just something like long-term I've just had forever. So working on that. Definitely working on just mentally moving slower.
Yeah.
And just practicing stalking. I mean, like I said, it's a newer skill for me.
Yeah.
I did make it a goal to spot and stalk kill a whitetail this year. Yeah. I was able to do that, which is really hard where I come from because it is pancake.
Oh, yeah.
It's pancake or thick brush you can see 5 feet in. There's no.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment.
So, yeah, I mean, so I did that. It was with a gun, but not a bow. But still. But, yeah, I mean... and then just the little gear things that I'm learning. I come from a TV background, but it's totally different when you throw wildlife in the game and you throw climbing mountains in there and little stuff too. Like, I was trying to, part of the reason I was like standing up a foot taller than him when I was crab crawling down that hill is because I was trying to balance my camera on my legs and like move down. And And you were talking about, I think you said something about you use like your strap or something. Mm-hmm. So just like little stuff like that you kind of can only pick up by just doing it.
Yeah.
And you. So anyway, just little stuff like that just kind of progressing on.
Even sometimes, like if I don't have a camera strap, I always have, whether it's the Peak Design strap holders, or I just always have a mini paracord, not paracord, but mini 550, it's like 300 or whatever it is, on the camera. And I've put that in my teeth before. So I'm holding my camera in my teeth, and I do it with an arrow sometimes too, you know.
Because I wasn't really able to extend my legs all the way because my camera would just, then it would have been done anyway. So little stuff like that, the hood thing.
Yep.
But hopefully you guys will start using lens caps now.
One thing I have to say, and then we kind of talked about it, Brian and I was actually pretty dang impressed at it, like your glassing.
Me too.
You know, because most guys, especially not in wide open country where you're looking afar, especially on coos deer.
I was totally snobby. I was like, I just assumed you weren't going to spot stuff.
Oh, same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
Me and Brad both. And
obviously didn't say it. But
hey, there's a buck.
I gotta
here.
say, I did find the buck, the big one.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Well, there's
over and over, you kept spotting stuff. I was like, dang, dude, he's like a valuable piece of this team,
right? Because there's a lot of times that guys,
they don't,
especially when they don't have that wide open, long distance, open country spotting, experience.
Cool. Yeah.
Especially coos deer. I mean, they're tough to spot.
No, you guys, that was impressive. What would you, for a guy that's going to go to Arizona or something and do this type of hunt, what's some words of advice you'd give him?
Definitely manage your expectations for sure. And I think a lot of guys, see you and Lampers going out there and killing stuff, and they're like, oh yeah. And it is cool. I mean, it's an over-counted hunt, so like get out there and go for it. But definitely manage your expectations. Definitely like have in mind, like if you're going on a stalk, that's not a 30-minute going after this deer. That's like a day-long thing. Yeah. Like be ready to like really invest the time, because like you said, otherwise it's not worth it. You might as well just stay in camp.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing I could throw into that too is, especially if you're where you haven't killed many or any mule deer with a bow, and your expectations are just, I just want to kill a buck with my bow, is still planned days. Because like you ran out of days pretty quick. Yeah. With the big storm, you ended up going home early.
I left 2 days early, And
it's like, if you had a few more days, especially after that stalk, and you learned a lot off of that stock, you'd have some more days to...
Days always. Like, people don't realize sometimes for us to kill those deer, it's 16, and 20 days.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, too, why guys do rush a stock, where they're throwing a rock or whatever, and they just push it, is because most guys don't have the days.
Yeah.
So, they in a sense, they have to make it happen.
But I didn't take that buck?
Right.
I didn't have the days. I had one more morning and afternoon. That's an example of saying, that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the patient move here because I know that forcing it doesn't really help me that much. It's just what it is.
And we did,
and it worked out. And I think if I had shot that night, I wouldn't have found him the next day, and I would have just gone home empty.
Yeah.
I really do think just holding the line with patience is critical.
And we did that even early on in the hunt on that same buck, the buck that you killed. Like when you texted me and called me and said, we killed that buck, dude, I was stoked because I was driving, and I think I was going to work or whatever, and you called me or texted me and were like, hey, got that buck down. And I was like fist pumping in the car, like, because we put so much time and effort into that buck,
Brad almost got him a couple of times.
Yeah.
But Brad could have loosed an arrow multiple times.
75, 80 yards, 85 yards twice.
Yep.
Could have done it, but it's like
it's
not a high percentage shot. It's low percentage, and I don't
care how good you are.
Right.
It's just
there could be a piece of brush that you don't see. There's so many variables in that.
You have to execute so perfectly.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And like I said, it's such a team thing. So I mean, I would say have help, like have a guy spotting and have a guy stalking.
Another thing I'd throw into that too is be learning, or practicing different ways of drawing your bow.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple times, like on multiple elk that I've shot in open country. I mean, I'm laying with my back on the hillside, and I'm drawing my bow with my bow laying flat.
Yeah.
And I'm drawing like this,
and
then it's rotate up. Like
or
just
holding
awkward.
full draw for a minute or something.
Right, holding.
Like that bull I shot, and you were filming over my shoulder.
Right.
I drew that bow down here in the grass, as low as I could get it. But it has to come up to shoot it.
Yeah.
But so it's down there, and it's like they're all rutting, and there's tons of elk everywhere, and I'm like, just do it slow. Just raise it slow. And so that's inch by inch.
Yeah.
I'm putting that cam up in the air. And that bow is now skylined because I'm low, and we're on a hill, and it's like, okay, it's getting higher. And now it's just sticking up like a tree.
Right.
Yeah.
Any animal that looks there cannot miss it now.
Yeah.
And it's coming up, and just as I get it to the top, the bull swings his head and looks at me. Looks right at me like, that doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he stands there looking. None of the other elk looked. And we went through my mind. I'm like, too late.
You did. You did.
I just put that pin on there. I was like, too late, buddy. I got it back. I was laughing inside. I was like, okay, just make this count. Poof.
Yeah.
And that thing just, you can see the yellow fletching in slow motion.
Nice.
Oh, and you should see it. You should see it through the lens. I mean, it's like it makes me sick.
Brad filmed it.
It makes me sick.
I know you
to
guys
just
lost
think
that.
about it right now.
That's lost footage. You'll never see the light of day.
Yeah.
It got deleted, but
But other thing, if you can afford it,
yeah,
Garmin Zero.
yes. I think for Arizona, it's like,
well,
did you got to watch and see it, and
Yeah.
What do you think?
There was one time, I think we were headed back to camp or something, or walking back, and like a little mule deer buck, kind of like we just saw it like next to the road.
Yeah.
And like if I had a Garmin, you were like, and if I'd had a Garmin Zero, I probably could have.
Oh, you just smoked him.
Yeah.
In fact, I was like, I watched him. You couldn't guess yardage. It's not a good idea.
Right, because I went to range him, and he saw me trying to.
Yeah,
I was
the
again
motion,
probably moving way too fast.
If you had just had your bow back,
mm-hmm.
and then you just started an inch to the side, you were going to kill that buck.
Because I was like, I knocked an arrow and I ranged him. Again, I was probably moving too fast again. But then by the time I got the range and put it down, I was about to draw. He was like, nope, and it was gone.
Yeah, he went a little bit, and then he gave you a second chance.
Yeah,
like a little bit, or almost a couple times. I don't remember exactly, but I remember thinking, with the Garmin Zero, he'd be dead.
Yeah.
He gave you the time. It's just the range, dial, draw, or just range, calculate in your head which pin, draw. You're calculating the pin. You need those seconds.
Yeah.
And with the Zero, he got nervous from all your movement.
Yeah.
If you had just been at full draw and you just barely slowly moved, like you had to clear a bush or something once, and it's like he just stood there.
Yeah.
Or he did a few times. He went a little bit and stopped, and went a little bit and stopped. You had to range him more than once.
Yeah.
You ranged him when you first got on him, then you ranged him again. I thought you were going to kill him the second time because he came to full draw. I'm like, this is it.
You got close, man. You got close.
Yeah, and I think about it too. Like on the windy day when I put the stock on that buck was when he came into 32 yards. It would have definitely helped because of 100% I would have been drawn.
Yes.
But at the same time, like I wish, because a mule deer, even without the Garmin Zero,
fine,
I would have been drawn.
I don't think people realize how small these coos
and
deer
because
are.
being around mule deer, around elk, like you get decent at being able to guess yardage. 50 yards and in, especially something you're familiar with all the time, a mule deer and elk that we hunt. But that coos deer, like, it is hard to judge distance. And I was 32 yards. I knew I had a window, but it's so hard to judge a stinking coos deer. Like, you don't know. And so I made the choice not to draw, trying not to blow them out, having another opportunity. And with the Zero, I would have already been drawn for sure, 100%. Yeah. As that buck walked into that window.
I'm telling you, it does. It's pretty neat because I think it reduces the guessing, which increases the success rate in terms of recovery. I think it reduces lost game due to wounding. Yeah. Because how many times has a guy ranged, dialed, drawn his bow, and then that buck took 3 or 4 more steps or went a little bit further at an angle and then cut back, and you're like, I don't know how far it is. I'm just going to put the pin here and guess and let it go. It's worth. That's how archery goes.
Yeah.
And I always struggle. Is that even ethical? You're supposed to. Archery is a guessing thing, but that bothers me. And so the zero eliminates that. Like, I've come to full draw. It trots away. Okay, on re-range, get the pin. Re-range, get the pin. It just makes it so when I do shoot, I shoot with single pin accuracy, no matter what. And I'm taking a shot I'm pretty dang sure I'm going to make. And there's not a lot of margin for error if you pin gap, guess wrong on elevation on a Coues deer. The kill zone is, they're a dainty deer, but
8 inches. What if that?
And that's a pie plate, a tight, like little tiny plate.
The further you get back, man, that thing shrinks. Like, it gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah. So for that, mule deer are bigger though, like you just said.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take longer shots.
And they're easier. They're easier.
That's why I always laugh, like guys that talk about elk. I haven't used a rangefinder in years. I've guessed they're the 4x8 sheet of plywood, dude. Like, can you hit that?
Yeah.
It's like they're a big target.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't want to hear it. It's like not even.
And even a Garmin Zero, like, yes, it ups your percentage of if you're in range being able to shoot that animal. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, like, there's still a factor of you've got to still get close enough to that buck, So
I feel like it saves you that time and gives you that edge. It helps you. It saves you time. It saves you time and movement, which are critical on Coues deer. Look, it's hard enough to try to do it with a zero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To do it without, more power to you. But I just feel like for those that feel like it's unfair, I think modern optics are unfair.
Yeah.
I think your map system is unfair. I think your side-by-side is unfair. Like, your radio is unfair.
Exactly.
Go down the list. I mean,
where do you draw the line?
we have people always complain about tech. I'm like, look, it's not really. You still have to be able to shoot.
Still got to make the shot.
And still have to get in range. You still have to do all these things.
Yeah.
And that little extra
you range with the Garmin Zero, you could be hitting a piece of brush, and
you can mess up.
You
just
can
like
mess up
anything
with
else.
a rangefinder, and you want to go into the whole technology thing of it. It's exactly like, if you're going to complain about that, then get rid of everything else you got.
Yeah. What kills me too is compound bows are not primitive.
No,
they're a tool. They're more primitive than a rifle.
Right.
But they're a modern piece of tech.
Choose your poison. Like, figure out,
do it. Yeah. Look, when the harvest rates skyrocket because of the zero, then do your thing. But it's just not happening.
No.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Getting in range is the problem of a Coues deer.
And getting at full draw.
It's one thing to
and
get
getting
draw.
a shot.
Yeah.
And Ryan talked about that deer being under 20 yards. Mm-hmm. And it was broadside when the arrow was loosed. And when it went in the buck, it went through his chest.
Yeah.
Because he spun toward the shot.
Oh, wow. 18 yards.
So 18 yards.
Spun all the way around.
I mean, I don't know how many seconds it takes to go, like 1 second? I mean, a half a second? Like,
so quick.
That thing was already spun, and the arrow went through his chest and out the
That's crazy.
side.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
So they can move.
They can move.
So, yeah, it was a fun hunt, though.
It was.
I look forward to round 2.
Yeah, man. Get it done next time.
So speaking of which, Hunter, how can people find you? You have a podcast called Hunter's Quest.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. I know you kind of have an angle and a purpose to that podcast.
Yeah. So my name is Hunter, but I like to it's the Hunter's Quest.
Yeah.
'Cause it's not about my quest. It's about all of our quests as hunters, And it's about my quest in some ways, becoming a backcountry hunter, getting in shape, but also one of the main themes of the podcast is spiritual formation. So, I figured that was one way I could have a little bit of a unique voice in the space. There's tons of great podcasts out there about becoming a backpack hunter and all this stuff. And even stuff I gravitated towards was like the mental toughness and stuff like that. Cause that's something in the Eastern hunting world. People don't talk about that kind of stuff. And I really resonated with that stuff. And as I mentioned, it was really a transformational, like, life change when I got into backcountry hunting. It really was. And so my faith has always been a big part of my life. So I was like, and I knew a lot of guys that were that also faith was a big part of their life. So like, well, and it was never really talked about much. It was kind of maybe a side mention, if that. So like, let's do a podcast where we talk about fitness and hunting And we do hit the spiritual aspect, and because no matter what faith you ascribe to, I feel like you can't deny there's a spiritual connection to being in nature and how we approach nature.
Right.
And so I want to talk about that without being preachy, without kind of slamming any one theology down people's throats.
Yeah.
And not like, it's something that people that even if you're not spiritual at all, you can still enjoy it and get value out of it.
Yeah.
But to have that conversation. So that's kind of my angle on it. And it's called The Hunter's Quest.
You've had some great guests.
Yeah. I had this one guy, Brian Call. He was
That's not what I meant.
No, I know. But yeah, I've had Adam Weatherby on there, Dan Staten. I'm trying to get Brad on there if he'll ever respond to get me on the calendar. I'm just kidding.
Brian has me.
No, yeah,
Brian has me running his whole calendar. So no, I'm just kidding.
No, but had some great guests on there. Got some really good traction in the first year. So, and then moving, continue the podcast this year, but then kind of going full send on the filming stuff. So.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we have a film from Kodiak. You and your buddy are there.
Yeah.
The three of you have an awesome hunt.
Yeah.
And I can see a little bit of the rookie, there,
of course,
which is great. I like it because I like it. It's so do it yourself. You guys you've never done this. No one there has vast levels of Kodiak experience.
Right.
There, and you from top to bottom, you put it together, made it happen, killed a monster.
Yeah.
And
my buddy killed a 107-inch blacktail on the last morning, and then I jumped over within 30 seconds and shot mine, like double kill in the last morning.
Spoiler alert! Thanks for that, Hunter. I just hooked him with the giant buck, and you're But
I've already talked about it. So.
Have you?
Yeah.
So it's very well done. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to see more stuff like that. I think that a lot of hunters are looking for good film and video content, and I find it impressive because I know how hard just doing the hunt is, but then bringing camera gear on that hunt and then capturing it the way you did, but then editing it the way you did, it's not as easy as people think it might be.
No, and you can get the best footage in the world, but if you can't put it together and tell the story, it doesnn't matter how good your footage looks.
It was really, really nicely done.
I appreciate that, man. I worked hard on it, had a good time with it. There's some, like you said, there's some things I would have done differently going back, but you live and learn, and I think it's just up from here. So
I think we're going to put that out on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Share it with the masses, do a little giveaway and stuff around it and stuff, kind of hype it up. And then I think what we'll do is a podcast about the trip. Like, how much did it cost? How do you work it out?
Yeah.
What are the things you recommend? You just freshly did it, and a lot of DIY guys want to do a Sitka blacktail hunt like that on Kodiak Island.
Yeah, and we did in August too, which is kind of something
not
a lot of guys do.
And we're into the grizz.
Grizz
a lot.
Grizzlies everywhere.
Grizzlies everywhere. Which
sows and cubs, which is all we saw was sows and cubs,
which bothers a lot of people. But we'll get your experience on that, you guys. It was really cool.
Yeah.
So look forward to that, folks. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in for the podcast. Don't forget to use the code GRIDDY at Mountain Ops, at Peaks.
Treeline Pursuits.
Treeline is Pursuits, yes. The e-scouting course with Mark Livesey. If you haven't got that.
I just used Gritty the other day at Alpaca Rafts and saved like $100.
Yes, Alpaca Rafts, initial ascent.
$100.
Backpacks.
Go through the
description field of our videos, and you'll see links. And we try to make sure that anytime we push a product, it's one that we really love, and you're going to get a deal. I need Dark Energy to step up.
I'm going to talk to Alyssa tomorrow.
Good.
I saw her there.
I want a code. I don't want a link.
I know. I saw her there, and I was like, I'm on the way to do something else. So I'll talk with her tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm going to go stop in there and see her. So
check that out, folks. That's it for today. We really appreciate all the support. Thanks for tuning in.